Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to talk about a real quick topic that came up on a recent video that I put out. In fact, it was yesterday, depending on when you're watching this, that I put it out. But it was me going out there fishing on Lake Chickamauga, catching some wintertime bass. We caught them on a lipless crankbait, a small swim bait, and also a jerkbait, like the Stunna 112. Really love throwing a jerkbait this time of year, and a viewer recognized, great eye by the way, that I was throwing a snap on that jerkbait. So that particular viewer asked what snap I like to use. I've actually done videos on this before, but it is the VMC double-aught crankbait snap. I'm not associated with VMC at all, or Rapala. So, you know, this is just a snap that I've been using for many, many years now. You know, as soon as they came out with this one, I was all about it. I really like that kind of egg shape, that, you know, as opposed to kind of the more elongated snaps out there. I just think that it's just a lower profile, looks better, makes the presentation not look as funky. But great little snap, and I really like to use snaps for, you know, things like fishing jerkbaits and also crankbaits. And that really, you know, if I go way back into the early 2000s, that really came from a tip from Kevin Van Dam himself in one of his books. And so Kevin, you know, really liked to, if I may use his first name, KVD. He really likes to use snaps, and not to be confused with snap swivels. Snap swivels are a no-no in bass fishing. You don't want to take a beautiful bait like, say, a Megabass Vision 110 and put a big old clunky snap swivel on there. I don't like snap swivels for most artificial applications, but a snap is a really great addition in a lot of cases. It allows me to be very efficient in swapping out baits. You know, if I haven't figured out exactly what color or what type of bait that I like, you know, if I'm fishing shallow diving crankbaits, I could go through 5 or 6 different shallow diving crankbaits before I find the one that the fish really like. Same thing with a jerkbait. And so snaps allow me to make those quick changes, especially in cold weather. I don't have to tie a bunch of knots with my cold frozen hands, my frozen sausage fingers, as my closest friends call them. But anyways, it makes me more efficient. But also, I believe that a snap, especially one like this that has that wider, you know, connection point, I believe that it allows for a bigger range of motion. I've even tested it with like jig head minnow setups, and it's worked really well. As you know, other anglers use a loop knot. I use a snap like this to add a little bit of action, and that of course plays into a jerkbait style of presentation or a crankbait or something like that. You want the most action out of those baits in most cases. But the reason why I wanted to do this video is, number one, I wanted to show you the exact snap that I like to use, because that was the question that I got initially, but also to give you a warning, a word of warning about using a snap. And this goes also for changing out your hooks. And this really goes primarily for jerkbaits. You know, crankbaits aren't as sensitive overall to like very slight weight changes, but jerkbaits are so fine-tuned, you know, from the factory, and they also are affected by water temperature. You know, certain temperatures of water are gonna, you know, change the sink rate or the suspending action or the float, you know, depending on the temperature, you know. So it's like you could take the same jerkbait and it will sink in some conditions but suspend in others. You know, it just depends on the water temperature. So every single day you go out, you can't just assume that your jerkbait is going to act the same way, you know, in different water temperatures. But When it comes to tackle selection, you really got to be careful about adding any weight, even if it's something as small as a double-aught snap like this. It can cause the bait to sink faster than you really want. So like the Stunner 112 is designed to be a slow fall, just like the Mega Bass is. And slow fall, you know, I always assume that suspending, like where it sits perfectly still when you pause it in the water column, doesn't float, doesn't sink. I always felt like suspending was the deal. But, you know, honestly, between suspending and slow fall, I feel like the baits that have a slow fall tend to get me a lot more bites when it's really, really cold. Not a fast fall. Like if it's falling like this, that's too fast. But if it's like just as it sits there, just slowly falling, that's what you're looking for. And adding any sort of weight can be detrimental to the overall action. So adding a snap, you got to be very careful. You got to test it in the water before you don't have to test every single bait, but if you're going out, actually, I take that back. You probably should test every single bait. Maybe not every single bait of the same model, but like if you're switching from the 110, the Vision 110 to a Stunner, you might want to test each one and see how it sinks. But not only the snap, but you also have to watch out for treble hooks. Treble hooks, the slightest difference in weight, like, I mean, I'm talking about the slightest, can make a huge difference. That's why, like with crankbaits, I'll upsize my my treble hooks. I'll put on some larger TBL 930s from Hayabusa on some crankbaits, especially the front crankbait, or the front hook rather. But with a jerkbait, I'm rarely doing that. If I have a jerkbait that's out of, completely out of balance and it's floating, that's when I'll add maybe either a bigger treble hook or a treble hook that is made with a heavier wire to the front. You don't want to do it to the back, or you maybe get away with the middle depending on how it's sitting, but mostly you're going to be doing that front hook. That's where you're going to want to add weight. And also another thing that you want to watch out for is how it sits in the water. I like it to sit slightly nose down. If it sits like this, back down, a lot of times I will downsize the hook on the back. But anyways, there's a lot of different things that you can do to a jerkbait. But the main thing is you want to just be careful when you do go to change out hooks, which is very important. Make sure that you're using something around the same, wire size and the same overall size, and then definitely test it in the water and make sure that you haven't affected the overall buoyancy of your bait. So anyways, just wanted to go ahead and do this video, not only to expose the type of snap that I use, but also kind of discuss some of the things that really, really affect jerkbaits. They're super sensitive. They're great. Super powerful tool during the colder weather, but they are a touchy class of bait, let me tell you. So just be very, very careful what you do to your jerkbaits, and that includes using a snap. You might just change the action and the overall buoyancy to a point where it's not going to be as effective. So anyways, guys, just wanted to mention that. I'll put a link to the VMC snaps in the description below. Other than that, I'm going to see you guys out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.